So my presentation today is going to be quite a bit different from the previous presentations, as my presentation is about some research that I did during my doctoral work at the University of Alberta. Now, what we're going to talk about today is nudging. So I'm just going to present some brief background, and then I'll tell you more about the research that we did. So next slide, please. According to scientists, humans process information using one of two systems. So the first system processes information in a cognitive or rational way. It uses information and thoroughly considers all the available options to select the best option. And when this system is engaged, it often leads to selection of healthy choices, such as apples. The other system is a non-cognitive system. It makes decisions rapidly in response to environmental cues, and when this system is engaged, it often leads to selection of unhealthy items, like brownies, for example. So while some food-related decisions are made in a cognitive or rational manner using the first system, most food-related decisions are actually made in a non-cognitive manner in response to environmental cues using the second system. Nudging is an approach to human behavior change that targets that second non-cognitive information processing system. Nudges are small changes to people's environments designed to promote healthier behaviors without limiting freedom of choice. Several research studies have successfully nudged purchase of healthier items through strategies like increasing the visibility of healthy items, reducing the effort required to access healthy items, like, for example, putting white milk in front of the chocolate milk, or using verbal prompts to promote selection of healthy items, like asking, "Would you like fruit with that?" So we wondered, next slide please, whether nudges along with price reductions might be an effective means of increasing purchase of healthy items in recreation facilities. We reasoned that if we could encourage patrons to purchase healthier items, then facilities might be more willing to use nutrition guidelines. Therefore, the purpose of this study was to assess the impact of nudges and a price reduction on healthy food purchases by patrons at an outdoor community pool. The study was implemented with 5 8-day periods in a single target concession at an outdoor community pool. So there was an initial pre-intervention period where we did not make any changes, and this was followed by 3 intervention periods. In the first period, it was a signage intervention, and during this phase, we renamed all the healthy menu items with fun names that would appeal to kids. So, for example, instead of a coconut banana smoothie, we called it a creamy cocoa cabana smoothie. We also doubled the height of the signage on which all of the names were placed to draw attention to the new items. During the second intervention, we added a taste testing intervention. So we kept the signs in place, and then we also added taste testing of the healthy items only. And during the third intervention, we kept the 2 previous interventions in place, and we also added a 30% price reduction on healthy items only. And following all the interventions, everything was removed, and we had a final post-intervention phase. So here, this slide shows a photo of the menu. This was during the third intervention period. So you can see that there's fun names. So our frozen banana was called a frozen funky monkey. And then we have 30% off red dot item signs there. In terms of data collection, we collected itemized cash register sales data for all the items sold throughout the study, and then we used an analysis of covariance to estimate the impact of the intervention on sales of healthy items in the target concession. And we did adjust the outcomes for the highest temperature reached each day, for the number of patrons at the pool, and for the hours of operation each day. So during the course of the study, there were 6,175 items sold in the target concession, of which 41% were healthy. So sales of healthy items were still significantly lower than sales of unhealthy items. However, we noticed that the sales of healthy items were similar to their availability, as 44% of the menu items were healthy. Now, in terms of the impact of the interventions, sales of health, next slide please, the sales of healthy items did not differ across periods. As you can see from looking at the red bars, they kind of go up and down, but statistically, none of those differences are significantly different. So none of the interventions were effective in increasing sales of healthy items. Next slide, please. So now recall I mentioned that 44% of the items available in the target concession were healthy and that 41% of the items sold were healthy. This was really interesting to us and caused us to wonder, how did availability of healthy items influence their sales? Now, we were actually able to examine this because there were, in fact, 2 concessions present at the outdoor community pool where we were working. The first concession was a target concession. That's where we did the intervention. And this concession was open from July to August of each year, and it had a very high availability of healthy items at 44%. Now, the second concession was a municipally operated concession. Now, it was open longer, from May to September, but it had a very low availability of healthy items at only 9%. So we were therefore able to examine what happened to sales of healthy items in May, June, and September when the availability of healthy items was very low because only the municipally operated concession was open. Next slide. As you can see in this figure, sales of healthy items closely mirrored their availability throughout the entire summer period. So before the Target concession opened, so in the first set of bars, when the Target was closed, you can see availability of healthy items was 9% and their sales were 8%. However, when the Target concession opened, the availability of healthy items increased substantially and their sales increased concurrently with that and in proportion to the availability. Then, when the Target concession closed, sales and availability of healthy items returned to baseline levels. And it's also very important to note that the revenues were unchanged across all of these periods. Next slide. So now turning to a discussion of our results. There are many reasons why the nudges and price reductions may have been ineffective. First, nudging is very subtle, and it might be too subtle to counter the powerful impact of other factors such as marketing within the environment. Also, the interventions had limited reach. Taste testing was something that not all patrons at the pool were able to participate in, and also some patrons may not have noticed the new signs, as food decisions typically are made very quickly. In addition, consumers have many priorities other than health. Children in particular tend to prioritize taste, and visits to the pool were really a fun family outing, so parents may have been more likely to allow indulgences. Fourth, high-income populations are typically less sensitive to price changes, and our study was conducted in a relatively wealthy area. And finally, the impact of price reductions differs by item. Many of our menu items were fruit-based, and the price of, or the demand for fruit has been shown to be not very responsive to changes in price. Next slide. So in conclusion, healthy items sold in proportion to their availability, with no adverse effects on revenues. However, the majority of items sold were still unhealthy. Nudges and a price reduction do not influence sales of healthy items in this setting, but that does not necessarily mean that they might not be effective in other recreational facilities. So the findings imply that increasing the availability of healthy and attractive menu items in rec centers may be a powerful means of supporting their sale without losing revenue. Increased availability, however, was not sufficient to induce purchase of healthy items by all individuals, as the majority of purchases were still unhealthy. Therefore, that suggests we need additional strategies to optimize food purchases in this setting. Some of these strategies might include, for example, further increasing the availability of healthy items, limiting or eliminating unhealthy items because they compete with healthy items for sale, or perhaps we could add other nudges like increase the visibility of healthy items, increase their convenience, or make healthy items the default items in combo meals. And I would like to acknowledge my co-authors, Dr. Linda McCarger, Dr. Kim Rain, Dr. Laki Gunwardine, and our funding was provided by the Canadian Foundation for Dietetic Research. And this study is published, so if you are interested, that is listed on this slide as well. Thanks.